about Batman. I sound so. Generally, though, like Robert Pattinson is such a strange dude, and you saw the movie, so like,
yeah.
How did that work out?
He was fine. They didn't give him a lot to do, in my opinion, as Batman. I felt like, the character of Batman can be challenging generally from being too shallow or too static, and I don't think they did anything to help themselves with that. Like, they just didn't give him a lot to do.
Okay.
I thought he did fine. I don't think he did anything really noteworthy as bad or good. I think it's hard to play that suit. You're an actor and you're completely covered up. I thought his chin did an excellent job. I mean, it's like, it's tough, right? And Bale did this thing where he brought a certain physicality to it and he had that fucking voice. And let's be honest, by the end of those 3 Nolan Batman movies, which are like roundly considered spectacular, and they are spectacular, Christopher Nolan is the best filmmaker who's ever touched these movies, this character. So those are the best. Let me just not bury the lead. The Nolan movies are still the best ones. But, as far as the actors go, Christian Bale did that voice, but by the end of those 3, the voice was becoming kind of a joke. Because I felt like he was just tired of doing it.
Yeah.
The whole where's the trigger thing, where it just sounds like an old guy with emphysema and he's tired of it.
What does Arpats do a voice, or does he?
It's affected. I mean, it's not like his normal speaking voice, obviously. It's gruff. It's Batman. I think everybody does a voice, but it's not as much as Bale's was. And so the suit itself looks fantastic. Here's what I would say. The movie visually is probably the best aesthetic of Batman ever. It's probably the closest to like a proper film noir, and therefore Batman the Animated Series, which has a very sort of Art Deco / Gothic kind of feel to Gotham. The city itself looks spectacular in the Batman. It doesn't just look like New York or Chicago or Detroit or some big city. Like, it looks really distinct as Gotham. The color palette's amazing. The use of like reds and oranges, and it's really, really distinct visually. I think it's maybe the best looking Batman movie ever. But thematically, they did very little. They treated their themes as an afterthought, and the characters don't particularly progress in ways that are interesting. The acting's all fine. It's all like, nobody really drops the ball except for maybe Paul Dano, who I thought was pretty bad except for one scene where he gets to act quote unquote normally, without giving spoilers away. So overall, I thought it was good, and I really, really, really enjoyed it from the standpoint of like visuals and spectacle, without spoiling it. Anyone who's excited to see the Batmobile, which is sort of teased in the trailer, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I thought they did very, very good things with those scenes, and fight choreography, excellent. I mean, really good stuff. They had Pattinson really do some work in those shots, where they're not, the modern day action movie is like half a second, and it's like a few frames, and you cut and you cut and you cut because the actor can't throw a punch in a way that looks believable, even if it's fake. And so the fact that they actually have him doing some fighting, some movie fighting for 3-4 seconds straight looks awesome. There's a lot of good stuff there, but I don't think that from an actual story standpoint, they didn't deliver anything The plot's nice. It's a detective plot. Like, Batman's actually a detective in this one, so comic book fans are nice. Like that. He's actually detecting shit, although at times he's better at detecting than others.
Okay.
There were some facepalm moments as far as how his detective skills worked or didn't work kind of inconsistently, but detective story, good job.
Now, you mentioned the animated series, and I'm not big into Batman or Kate movies, but of what I have seen, is Batman the Animated Series the best Batman on film ever? Because I watched that growing up, and like every time I see a Batman thing, I just think of how cool the animated series was.
Batman the Animated Series, I don't know if I would say it's the best like cinematically, but it did a really cool thing in that it felt as though it truly brought comic books to life.
Yeah, because like it was so striking visually in a lot of the moments, and it like Harley Quinn came from there, and now she's just iconic to the series.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, really competent writers wrote that series, and they did very interesting things visually. And that's why I would say this one, it doesn't look like Batman the Animated Series. It looks much grimmer and bleaker and sort of grimier than that, but it clearly takes some visual cues from that. I would still maintain, though, that as far as films go, The Dark Knight from Christopher Nolan is still the best film ever that has Batman in it.
Okay. Now,
can I say one other thing real quick on Batman? It was a weird thing that happened. My girlfriend really wanted to see Death on the Nile. Are you familiar with that? It's Agatha Christie based.
I'm actually, there is a TV show, Poirot, that my husband and I love watching. So we saw the episode of Death on the Nile in that TV show.
Okay, yeah, all right. So my girlfriend loves whodunits, and I'm kind of now getting into whodunits because I thought Knives Out was really, really brilliant. And so she really had been wanting to go see this, and the fucking theaters, at least the one closest to us, do you know that this weekend they will not have a single screen that isn't fucking Batman? This is like a multiplex, like your traditional multiplex. It's got tons of screens.
And it's all they're not playing anything other than Batman?
Everything all day for Saturday and Sunday is Batman. And Friday, I think. And so the last day would have been to go see Death on the Nile, and it's going to be done being in theaters because it's been out for a while, was like Thursday. So long story short, we ended up going to see like a double feature in the evening to see both. Because my girlfriend was going to kill me if I didn't take her to go see Death on the Nile, and we just had to go see Batman. So we saw both. And here's all I'll say is that when you go from watching a Batman movie, which is very competently made, no knock against Matt Reeves, visually it's very beautiful, but then you go to watching kind of like, I don't know, like a real movie, or like a normal movie. Like, okay. It's based on an Agatha Christie property, don't get me wrong, it's not like a truly original film, but it's like, if you make a movie that has Batman in it, hopefully you're a very competent filmmaker, and Matt Reeves totally is, and the director of photography, it looks great. But like, when you watch a movie like Death on the Nile, which is really, really well shot and looks really, really good, it's like really competently made, I go, oh, that's right. You have to be really, really good at making movies in order for them to give you money to make a movie. Unless you're like what's his name? Oh, fuck, the Buffy guy, Joss Whedon. Because all of the movies, like The Avengers, I think you saw that one, right? That's like the last one from Marvel.
It is.
That movie looks like shit. Like, that movie looks like a cheap TV pilot. And everybody just ignores it because it's got superheroes in it. But it looks like dog shit. It looks so bad. And I'm not saying the Batman looks bad. I'm just saying that there's a certain... I don't know how to put it. Like, there's an opening sequence in Death on the Nile where characters are dancing, right? Uh-huh. And it's a big, elaborate dance sequence. And I was impressed watching the Batman because, again, modern day action movies, every half a second they're cutting because the people can't fight. So if they had 4 seconds without a cut in a fight scene, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. You go to Death on the Nile, there's no fight scenes, but the dance sequence in the beginning, there's like 40 people on a dance floor. They did half the song. The actors are really dancing. And I mean like Dancing with the Stars, like he's lifting her up and throwing her around. And the camera's moving in and out of other dancers moving. And it's all like, it's fucking 20 seconds uncut. And I'm like, this dance scene is way fucking harder, with all due respect, than the goddamn fight scenes that they did in Batman. And no one's ever going to care. No one's ever going to care because hardly anyone's going to see Death on the Nile. I guarantee it.
Well, now you made me want to go see Death, because I like Poirot. But
anyway, we've been going on for a film corner for 10 minutes.
Anyway, Bioware had a blog update.
Yeah, tell people why we're really here, Caitie. What's going on in the news here?
Well, let's. I think if we go in chronological order, things are going to make a little bit more sense. Because I think if we title this episode anything, which probably not going to end up being this because it's going to be too wordy. I feel like the current episode is more about like the mood in the fandom for the moment. So what day was this? When did I tweet this out? So February 18th. I think it happened like a couple days before this because it took me a while to get to it because I got sick. That was fun. But Jeff Grubb, that's his name, right?
Jeff Grubb, the legendary.
Yeah, I had not actually heard of him until this, but apparently, like, you've heard of him, and apparently he's, like, really, like, he knows his shit. Like, he's good information. And he had a it was technically behind a paywall, but Giant Bomb, I think it is where he did this, has like a free trial, so you can actually like use the free trial, which is what I did to go watch the video. He had like this live Q&A session where someone asked about like how is Dragon Age doing. And he, like, honestly, I think like the segment of him talking about Dragon Age is like less than 5 minutes, but it got everyone up in a tizzy. He essentially said like, you know, the staff is actually really happy with it's going. They keep meeting their benchmarks, and they're like really happy with it, and they're on track for like a release date in like maybe 18 months, but probably later than that. And then like one person tweeted about like Dragon Age is coming out in 18 months, and then all the journalists ran with that, when I think what he actually just said, it was more like could be a late 2023 release, but probably later than that. So that's kind of where that is. And I think what really he was saying that's actually more important rather than a release date is that the production team are happy with what they have. And apparently things are going well, and they're meeting their marks, and they're not crunching is a big thing. So the team is apparently doing really well with that. So that was kind of the mood. Everyone's like, okay, this is pretty good. It's coming soon. It's whatever. And then what, like, was it the 23rd? Yeah, February.
So if I could, stop or pause for a second there. How did you feel first glance at that moment in the chronology?
I mean, I guess I felt like fun, like sure. That's kind of what I thought was going on behind the scenes anyway. Like we had kind of heard other people, like granted it was all from like official sources, like from other BioWare blogs. They were saying like things are going well, and like you kind of always wonder like how much of that is just, you know, corporate speak, like how much of that is real. So like hearing someone that is supposedly talking from behind the scenes sources say that as well, like that's good to hear. So I guess if anything, it was more just like confirmation. I'll be honest, like pretty much most of the news we've had going on kind of just feels like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. Even with I guess spoilers, Christian Dailey leaving, like he always felt temporary to me anyway. Like I guess I'm not really that surprised by it. So
okay.
That's where I'm coming from. So, but yeah, they released on the 23rd a BioWare blog where they essentially just had a reshuffling of the management. Christian Dailey is gone. He replaced Darrah, and I guess at the time, and maybe I've just gotten this vibe. I don't even think it was even said anywhere. I always just thought he was temporary until they could find a replacement for Darrah. Maybe that's just me. Like, I guess him leaving isn't a surprise. Like, he's only been here a year. I think he only took the place because Darrah just straight up left.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh shit, who do we have? I don't know, Dailey's here, and like his contract's about to end. Let's just throw him on here, and then we'll let him go when we find somebody else. And I guess now is just the time that, because this is about a year from when Darrah like left. Like he said he was leaving in December, but I think he actually kept going on until about February or something like that. I can't remember the timeline very well, but yeah. I don't know. Like I guess I'm not really surprised by it all. Like what do you think?
I had no idea any of this was happening. Well, I said not any of it, but the Jeff Grubb thing, which I think was a big story for our community. I'm not really logging into Twitter these days. I'm not really spending a lot of time on my personal YouTube account around BioWare content creators, so I was like totally in the dark. I think I found out about the Jeff Grubb everything is going good story like almost around the time the Christian Dailey thing was happening. So I never processed that at all. It was just like, oh, that happened while I was away and not logging into Twitter. So I have even less feelings about it than you. It just seems like almost like a non-story to me. Because we don't know the substance of what those people were, like what led someone to say that. I mean, he mentioned benchmarks, like internal sort of goals, but I feel like that, like unless we know specifically what that is, that could be anything. It's just good. I mean, it's good, but it's not anything that like makes me super excited or anything.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's definitely nothing that's come out that's like, oh, you know, there's all these super exciting flashing things or whatever. But I feel like I get the sense that like things are happening pretty soon here. Like, I think we can start getting a like press cycle for the next Dragon Age game, like maybe within the year even, because like they said they're going to see us again or whatever at later in the year. So I think not with oh, actually, that was another thing that Jeff Grubb said that no one talked about that was really interesting. He said that he hasn't heard anything about EA Play, which is weird. So he's wondering if EA Play is even going to happen this year.
That's interesting. I mean,
it wasn't E3 canceled? Didn't I read that right? Or
what, for this year?
Yeah, for this year.
God, I've been so out of the news cycle. If E3 is canceled this year, and I don't know, I wouldn't even be surprised at this point.
But I think if I heard the rumblings right, and I could be completely wrong, I think that whatever Geoff is doing worked, and then this summer is going to be Geoff controlled Summer Games Fest, where like kind of throughout the summer you get like people like doing things like maybe like once a month, a couple of game conferences sprinkled out throughout the summer, rather than everyone's doing everything at once in the first week of July or whatever it is. I think
Jeff Grubb, in January, Jeff Grubb was reporting that E3 2022 digital event is a mess and probably also going to be canceled.
Yeah, okay.
Apparently they're having a hard time getting it together.
Yeah, so I guess it's just more of that. And so if anything Dragon Age is going to happen, it's probably going to be for later. Is it PAX that's in like the fall? There's like something they usually do at the fall. I can't remember. It's whatever.
It could be PAX. It could be Gamescom. It could be a variety of other ones.
Yeah, so I think whatever EA's planning, we're not going to see it in the summer, but it's probably going to be like if summer, the late summer, and then the fall. And that's what it's going to be.
Which, I mean, if it's not coming out until late 23, according to the recent information, or 24 at this point, like, why even bother with any of these things this year?
I don't know. Apparently we're getting something, because they keep saying, well, you'll see more Dragon Age later this year, so they're doing something.
You think it's Game Awards again?
I don't know. It could be. Because like that's like, late 2022. And if it comes out in late 2023 or early 2024, then yeah, you would start advertising at that Game Awards, At least I would. But, and like we've had a couple trailers. What was the first trailer? 2018? Like, they keep doing
if you count, the teaser one, and then the one that we had most recently, which showed, I don't know, but it showed some scenery and some sort of like locales, I guess.
Yeah, and Varric was talking.
Yes. I don't know if I've taken any of that stuff to be indicative of really anything, not even art style, not even really what's going to be in the game. It's just sort of like, hey, it's around, here's a vibe for it, and that's about it.
Yeah, no, that's basically what I've gotten to. But, well, the only thing that the behind-the-scenes trailer, that one, which was, like, I think before the one you're talking about, that one actually seemed to show, like, things that were in progress being made, because it had, like, models and, like, the program it was being worked on.
Yes, that one's super interesting, because for a split second, I'm like, is that, like, a little bit of Demon Souls gameplay I'm seeing here? Like,
maybe. So, yeah, that's what I'm getting. Now, I will say, like, okay, so other things that were announced in this blog, they had a couple things about Star Wars. I'll be honest, I don't give a shit about Star Wars, so we're just going to ignore that.
Sure.
But so Christian Dailey, who replaced Darrah, is gone. And then they announced, Darrah and Dailey, they both held the title executive producer. And now there isn't an executive producer. There is a production director and a game director. And I don't know if that's like they split the title up into two different people, or if there just isn't an executive producer right now. I don't really know what's going on with the management situation. Like, maybe they just changed it. That's fine. I guess there's been some reshuffling, because I don't know if we've had a production director and a game director. And to be honest, I don't really know what that means. But I guess the production director is Mac Walters, which is, I mean, the only reason I know Mac Walters is because I imagine him as the Mass Effect guy. Because has he been on all the Mass Effects for the most part?
He has been on most of them. I can't remember what he was. I think maybe he was credited as a writer on the first one, and then he's been one of the lead writers or executive producers or creative directors on the subsequent ones.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I'm surprised he's on Dragon Age rather, because apparently they are working on Mass Effect 4, so I'm surprised he's not on that. Maybe they're just trying to get Dragon Age out the door, and he does they don't really need a director right now, and so he's just on Dragon Age helping. And then there's Corinne Bush, and she's the game director. I try to look up what she's worked on in the past. She's been on this iteration of Dragon Age for a long time apparently, and I think before that was The Sims. If I might be wrong on that though. She's kind of hard to pin down. But
Corinne Bush has been with EA for a long time, and I think I knew that even before this blog post. But that's really all I know.
Yeah, she's been at EA, but I don't know how long she's been at Bioware. Which who cares? But yeah, I know she's been on Dragon Age for at least a couple years, and before that was The Sims. I don't know how long she's been on The Sims. Which, I'll be honest, I think half the people that I know that are into Dragon Age are also into The Sims in some form. I would totally be into The Sims if I had time. So I'm yeah, all right, this works.
Sure. We don't know. I mean, it's to kind of an aside here is that unfortunately, content creators abroad, this is not just a Bioware specific thing. Content creators covering video games broadly like to do this thing now where they comment on the professional pedigree of people who they do not know, who they have not worked with. In a profession and in an industry that they haven't worked in, that they know nothing about. It's if you see a news article about some executive chef taking over a restaurant, I mean, look, what you can do is you can eventually go to the restaurant and eat the food that they make, and you can decide whether or not you like it. If you're not a professional chef, or quite frankly, even if you are, you should probably just, like everybody else, just wait until they're cooking the food and you can eat it. Doing this thing of well, I see on their LinkedIn they worked on these 5 other things. That means everything's going to be great. Or they worked on a mobile game. They must be stupid. There's no way for us to know whether or not any of these people... presumably the only logical thing to surmise is that there's a rigorous process of selecting who are going to be in leadership positions in particular, and that these people absolutely deserve to be there. They're highly qualified, more than capable of doing the job, and that doesn't mean that a creative product will satisfy what every single person wants from it, or even that the execution of producing a project like this will go smoothly. It just means that they are probably most certainly qualified to do the job. And after that, it's look, man, it's art. It's a combination of art and technology. It's hard. It's a creative endeavor. It may not go well. Doesn't mean they weren't qualified. It just means these things are hard. Yeah, and
one thing I'll say is sometimes it's with a chef, it's easy to judge the job they did, because you eat it, it tasted good, it tasted bad, it's whatever. I feel people in leadership positions, unless you're there actually working the job, you can't tell. We'll never know how well Mac Walters and Corinne Bush did, probably because they didn't do a thing that we really got to see. The best we could do is years later people come out oh, they did a great job, or oh, they suck. And I feel it's same thing with Darrah, and same thing with everyone else who left. I don't know. So.
Yeah. Well, it's it's a large scale production, and I guess all analogies fail at some point. But to kind of try and stick with the chef analogy, depends on the size of the kitchen, right? A lot of executive chefs do not have their hands on the stove or whatever, so to speak. They are directing a team of other chefs who are sort of doing that. It's the reason why things turn out good is because the kitchen runs well, and that is sort of the domain of whoever's over the whole kitchen. And these teams for video games continue to get bigger and bigger. And it's a tough job to have. I think my only point is just that the speculation to me, and I'm guilty of it. I've done the same thing too. And the more I look back on it, we don't know. The real answer is just we don't know. What I think I can do very well is play a video game and then talk about it. Mm-hmm. I don't think I or anyone else is actually good at reading a list of names and credits and titles and then prognosticating with any kind of accuracy whether or not the names and the credits and the job titles are going to lead to good game or bad game. I don't think anyone actually has a good track record of doing that.
Yeah. Now, I will say that I actually knew of Corinne before all this happened because she's actually pretty active on Dragon Age Twitter. Like she follows, I'm currently looking at, she follows like a lot of people in the community that like you got like a bunch of artists and also a bunch of, I say this lovingly, shit posters that just like they tweet like Dragon Age funnies like every once in a while. Like, and like she'll like and reblog a couple things. So I think she generally is a fan of the series, which I guess is kind of nice, seeing that too. And hopefully like, you know, she understands what we want. Although then again, I have no idea what her job does. Maybe it like doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean?
Well, and also like who is we and what do we want? Like at this point within the Dragon Age community, because it's so divided most of the time.
That's true. Well, I feel like this is going to be something we'll have to talk about when the game comes out. There is each social media has its own little hotspot in community. There's the Dragon Age Twitter, and then there's the Reddits, and then there's the Tumblrs, there's the Discords, there's you know, things in other languages that I don't even know. That's a whole rabbit hole I found. Russia has a whole Dragon Age thing, like community that I didn't even know about. But like they all work differently, and so like maybe she is plugged into the Dragon Age Twitter and it will do everything Dragon Age Twitter wants, but might piss off the others. You know what I mean? So and when the game comes out, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that like aren't plugged into like this little group that have made themselves, and it's people coming into the series for the first time, or people who really only liked Origins. And I feel like people that like only like Origins are completely different than like everybody else.
Well, within the online communities, like yes. I can tell you, at least I don't spend a lot of time on these social media platforms anymore, so maybe this is wrong now, but it used to be Reddit fucking worships Origins, everybody else is just horny Dragon Age fans. Twitter, Tumblr, everybody on every Discord ever. Like, it's basically just the romance people and then the fucking Reddit people who are like, Origins is God, Inquisition sucks. Well,
the term origin bro is actually even a thing that's been thrown around. I've seen quite a lot where it's like the stereotype is like the guy that plays Call of Duty and the only good Dragon Age was Dragon Age Origins, and you know, just super masculine, blah blah.
That doesn't even make any sense. Played Call of Duty but likes Origins? That doesn't make any sense.
That's just the vibe I get from people when they throw that around. That's just the stereotype that people have made that with. Is it correct? Probably not. But that's just what it is. But yeah, overall though, I will say this. So the Bioware blog came out, and I think for the most part, like, even with Dailey leaving, I think that the mood that I was getting was people just not giving a shit.
Sure.
Like, they're happy. Like, I feel like in past times, people leaving, like when Laidlaw left, the most when Laidlaw left, and then, Gator left first, and then it was Laidlaw, and then Darrah left. Darrah leaving was also wonderfully timed because it was the day before Dragon Age Day, and so everyone was like, "What the fuck?" And then also,
Casey Hudson left.
Why do I always forget his name?
Sure.
But they left on the same day. But like I feel like after that it was just so everyone's just so exhausted about all this news that like another guy leaving, they just didn't care. And I will say like there was a bunch of like journalists coming out like, oh, is the game in trouble? And I think another reason why people don't give a shit, because literally the next day is when Ukraine was invaded. And I feel like everyone kind of had a moment of like, okay, maybe this doesn't fucking matter right now. And we all just kind of moved on. So, I feel like that's kind of, I guess that's where I am personally, where like a lot of things have just happened recently that like, this is important to like the story of Dragon Age 4 or whatever, but I like feel like for the most part a lot of this is a lot of things happened in the background, but like I don't really care right now,
Well, certainly online. I mean, you talk about the fact that Ukraine has been invaded by Russia. First of all, while I normally like to stay far, far away from commenting on anything that's not directly related to video games, something happened where I just happened to be looking through our podcast demographic. It breaks down sort of listeners in different countries, and we have what is probably a very minuscule, maybe it's like one person or 5 people, I don't know, but at least in our demographic data, it shows that people from Ukraine have listened to this podcast. And so in the interest of that and just kind of like the general, well wishes, I mean, I think both of us just want to say that our hearts go out to everyone who's affected by this right now. It's legitimately one of the most terrible sort of conflicts in recent memory or modern times. It's terrible. And video games matter very little in light of all of that. So I don't know. The only reason why I mention it is just because in the very unlikely scenario that someone directly affected by this, someone who has family there or who themselves has fled, is for some reason listening to this podcast and hoping for a small respite from all of that madness, just know that our hearts and thoughts are with you. Yeah,
and I will say, like, there's an artist I've been following for a while, and they actually follow me too, because they do a lot of like Dragon Age work. I'm gonna botch the username, so sorry, but Lethendralis on Twitter, and they are Ukrainian, and just like seeing their retweets and like what's been going on with them, like I don't know. It's like I'm on the edge of my seat. Like I feel like I check Twitter to make sure they're okay, and I've literally never talked to them, but like I just. And there's a couple other people too that I see that like, oh, I recognize you. Like I've never talked to you, and maybe just like Dragon Age surprisingly has a big following in Europe and even in Russia. Like I just by chance I heard that the Russian dub of Dragon Age Origins kind of sucked ass, so I've been streaming it, which is surprisingly, hey, yes, it sucks ass. And I haven't actually streamed it since the invasion, just because. Like other personal reasons, and I want to get this Mass Effect thing done. But like I had a lot of like people that like at least spoke Russian. I don't know if they're in Russia, or some of them might even be Ukrainian because like they speak Russian. But like I worry about them. Like it's just been, I feel like it's just been on my mind, and like that's kind of where I am. And so like it is kind of weird just to sit and be like, let's talk about a guy leaving BioWare.
It's like people have a tremendous amount of empathy, and that heartens me in a lot of ways to see how much empathy people have for others. For as much bullshit as there is on social media, and as much as I decry it, it seems sort of inevitable that when something like this happens, although the ties may be sort of ancillary on social media, like that doesn't stop people from caring. Like my girlfriend had a similar thing as what you described, where it's like it's not someone she knows well. I think she had purchased like a vintage something from a shop that's in Ukraine online, and she had seen them post like, we're shutting our shop, we're fleeing the country, like Russia's invading, and just like seeing things that happen and reaching out and expressing like support, and then also like you said, sort of like then checking up, like, oh my God, are these people okay? And like, you don't even know these people necessarily, but you're still sitting there like as though they're your friends or someone you know. And it's crazy to think, but like people have a tremendous amount of empathy. And although there's a lot of toxic things on social media, although it's a terrible, terrible situation, there's something kind of encouraging about the fact that people will use social media to express empathy and support and just well wishes for people who are going through absolute hell right now. Yeah. So yes, and so you're right. This, as weird as it is, we're here to just talk about video games. I agree completely that the mood of how our little video game fandom reacted was greatly affected by the fact that there's just way more important things going on. Yeah. And I feel like that's actually kind of been going on for a while now. Like I feel like before the pandemic, like the littlest fucking thing about Dragon Age and everyone fucking lose their minds. Like, like at one point, I mean, it happens so often. I can't even think of like a good example. Like someone, I think at one point, like didn't say it was single player in a tweet, and so everyone was like losing their goddamn minds that it was going to be an MMO. And then after 2020, I feel like that has not happened at all.
there hasn't been an overblown. I don't think I've felt the need to like sit here and calm people down because everyone is just worried about real shit.
Yeah.
And like in some part, I'm almost proud because like, look, guys, we finally did it. We don't give a shit about video games anymore.
Yeah, we did it. We convinced everyone not to care. Well, no, I mean, Darrah and Casey Hudson leaving on the same day. I feel like that was a pretty strong reaction.
That was a strong reaction, but I feel like even then, that was nowhere. Like, if that had happened in 2019, people would have literally exploded. Even after, even though it was a big explosion, it wasn't as bad as it would have been a year prior. And I would put money on that. How would I be able to bet on that? I don't know, but like,
I agree, and I do think it's. I agree, and I think it absolutely has at least something to do with the sort of real life events like the pandemic that were happening in 2020. I absolutely do think that that's part of it, but I also think it's a matter of people are getting fatigued with this particular story. Senior member of BioWare departs because, Laidlaw leaving, which was like 2017, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2018, like that was early enough into the project of Dragon Age 4 that it's, the project was young enough that just hadn't happened yet. Inquisition only came out in 2014, Trespasser was 2015, so the first couple of years, like that just didn't happen. And then it was Laidlaw, and then it was Gator. And then even if it wasn't people directly working on Dragon Age, the BioWare story of Carpiscian leaving again and James Olin also leaving, who was more on SWTOR, but still, it's like then it was one person after another. Darrah, Casey Hudson, Matt Goldman, who was sort of like unceremoniously leaving the company, and not a lot was said about it by BioWare officially. And then this one, and it's like at this point, I think people are just sort of like, yeah, the senior leaders leave, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, and there's also nothing else to say, Like, okay, another person left. Here's a new person. Anyway.
Yeah, well, on the point of the fact that there's nothing left to say, I feel like, yes, it is that, but it's also, I'm starting to see the people who are going to say the same thing no matter what.
Yeah.
And in that sense, what I mean is there's people who are going to say that the sky is falling and this is terrible and really awful and we better be really worried about this no matter what. But similarly, I feel like there's the it's okay people who are going to say it's okay no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of time between Matt Goldman and Christian Dailey is very small as far as I'm concerned. And I honestly think that there's a type of person, either a fan or a content creator, who, if Corinne Bush and Mac Walters were off this project tomorrow, they would still be saying, it's okay, guys, don't worry, video games are made by lots of people. And if the replacement for those folks were gone the next day, they would be like, it's okay, guys, video games are made by a lot of people, we don't have to worry. And it's like, if the creative director or the equivalent positions are being replaced every week, like, no, yeah, you do have to worry. That's really, really bad.
Yeah.
That's really, really bad. You should be worried at that point. Not saying that that's what's happened, but I'm starting to notice, like, there's people who are going to say the sky is falling no matter what, and there's going to be people who try to downplay it and say it's not a problem no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of interesting to watch for me.
So who are we? Because I know in the past we've definitely said don't worry. By a lot of this stuff. And sometimes I wonder if part of that, I don't know, I feel like with Darrah leaving, we just said, oh, fuck.
No, we did. We did, because that was
did.
justified in that situation.
That was, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's contextual, totally. Like, I think Laidlaw leaving, we were right because we said, that was the first one. So yes. I think on the first one, you say, everybody chill. There were people who freaked out about the fate of BioWare because Carpiscian left again, even though to me it was very clear he came back on contract to work on Anthem. James Olin, that's kind of big, but he wasn't working on Dragon Age or Mass Effect, and I don't think he was planning to, so I thought you could tell people to chill on that. David Gator leaving. I mean, how many glowing positive things did David Gator have to say about Patrick Weeks taking over for you to feel okay with that? Like, I feel like that was fine. Casey Hudson and Mark Darrah on the same day, yeah, that was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, okay.
That one was kind of oh shit. Me personally on Matt Goldman, I was concerned by the nature of it and that it didn't seem planned. It seemed abrupt, but okay, there's no information to go on based on that, so you don't know. And now for me, Christian Dailey, it's like the proximity to the prior departure is concerning.
I always thought Dailey was temporary because he was on Anthem, and I feel like he was gonna leave, and then Darrah left, and they're like, "Hey, Dailey, we just got an opening. Do you want to stay for like another year?" So to me, he always felt temporary, and maybe that's wrong, but I that's just always the feeling that I got. So I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from, and maybe I'm just like doing an assumption, like basing my feelings on an assumption here. But yeah, like that just makes sense in the storyline because like Anthem got canned around the same time that. Or, what? Right? Am I right on that? When did Anthem get canned, and when did Darrah leave? Because was Anthem canned?
It was
before?
a few months. It was a couple of months after.
Yeah, so it's probably like yeah, Darrah left, and they didn't know they were gonna can Anthem yet. So yeah, it might have been like they canned Anthem and said, "Hey, do you want to work on Dragon Age in the same week?" It might have even been that if the dates line up.
I want to say that it was it was both.
Yeah.
That Christian Dailey was over both for a while, and then it was Anthem Next got canceled.
Was that even the same Bioware blog? Hold on, let's.
No, it was in February. February was when Anthem Next got canned in 21.
Yeah, so but like was it the same blog that he was then announced to be the Dragon Age guy?
No, it was like 3 months apart.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been about a year since. It was December 2020 when Darrah left, and in that post announced that Christian Dailey was taking over. It was February 21 when Christian Dailey said Anthem is done.
Okay.
But presumably behind closed doors, they may have already kind of knew it was going that way, which is why they had him
do that.
Move over to. And I don't know. I guess I don't have any information on it, so I don't know. But I guess from that perspective, I assumed that like Christian Dailey was at a project leading level, and so he was. Unless they were planning to move him off to something else, I assumed he was staying on Dragon Age for the duration.
Oh, you know what? Another reason why I thought he was temporary is that Dragon Age is like the production is mostly based in Edmonton, but I think he was in Austin. And I think we talked about that. Isn't it weird that the production guy is in Austin? So maybe that's another reason why he left. Was like, look, I have to. There's a bit of a time difference here, and like we're
right.
I'm not the same. Well, they're not. They're still working remote, right? Like they're not even.
I don't know. I mean, it's also possible Christian Dailey was just sort of maybe a bit voluntold, or like this is what the company needs you to do, but he wasn't interested in doing that, or maybe he would have needed to move to Edmonton and that wasn't going to work for him and his family. I mean, we just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But
well, speaking of Darrah, there was one more thing we wanted to talk about. Just kind of briefly, but I was notified of a podcast called Defining Duke Ultimates, and it is done by didn't you do something with this guy, Mr. Matty Plays? Like did I make that up?
Yeah, I was on an episode of Defining Duke Ultimates.
Okay, there you go. Yes, I'm normally on I was on the pulse of like people doing Dragon Age and Mass Effect content, but then I had a baby and my life exploded, so it's been a minute. So I only vaguely know who this guy is. But I guess in an episode, Mark Darrah was on it. And let's talk about what he said. I think for the most part, a lot of it is about like his time as a like developer. And you can also hear some of like right now to listen to it, you have to like go donate to their Patreon. But a lot of what Mark Darrah says, he also repeats on his own YouTube channel, Ode Game Device. But I think the thing that we want to talk about is that he kind of like confirms a lot of our suspicions about like Anthem development, and then also not why he left, but like conditions of him leaving. Like you said, he mentions he didn't sign anything to say good things about EA, you know?
Yeah, I thought the interview was pretty good. It was a good listen. Matty has been doing Bioware content for a while, but I think he's more known for like Fallout, Skyrim stuff. And so I was totally shocked. I'm like, oh shit, Darrah's on Defining Duke Ultimate. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And the interview I thought was a lot of the same sort of very interesting insight that Mark Darrah gives on his own YouTube channel. Yeah. So from that standpoint, I didn't think it was anything really revelatory, but I do think it's a great listen because he's very candid. And he's very honest and forthcoming with talking about game development, which I think is just very interesting.
Yeah. And I think kind of he's never like sat down and stated like I left because of X, Y, and Z. But like the way he talks about it, which apparently it was unplanned that him and Casey left on the same day. And like right. they've never even talked about it, which I find funny. But they were kind of talking about like it just kind of sounded like he didn't enjoy working at a big company anymore, and that's just kind of where like he said like the most fun he's had developing a game was on the Sonic video game that BioWare did like an eon ago for the Nintendo DS.
Yeah.
In which hey, it's been a hot second since that release, and it sounded like Anthem was particularly grueling, which like. I forget even which one it was, but there was a Twitch live stream he was on, where Darrah was talking about Anthem, and I could just tell he was having a miserable time, and it's probably one of my favorite Mark Darrah moments because he was being so snappy to the chat, and I legitimately was like, okay, this guy's pretty funny because he just had this disdain for everybody. And
it's great. It really is.
It just sounded like it. I feel bad because he honestly looked like he was just miserable doing that thing. But yeah, I just confirmed behind the scenes. Yeah, Anthem was pretty hard to work on, and it was pretty rough. So I guess. Coming hot off the heels on Anthem, I guess he just didn't want to make sure he didn't have to do that for Dragon Age, you know? That's kind of how I felt he was getting at. Not that Dragon Age is in a state that Anthem was in, because the more he talks about like the Anthem state, like Anthem had no idea. Like what I think you quoted him saying like at one point the team didn't even know they were doing a looter shooter or something like that.
Yeah, he made a very interesting comment, which is that a lot of the people on the team who were making Anthem, that early in the game's development cycle, they didn't see it as a looter shooter necessarily, which I think is a very telling comment. But I still don't consider that to be groundbreaking because I think anyone could have extrapolated as much from having actually played the game. I mean, I'm not exactly a looter shooter connoisseur, but I played Destiny 1 for a decent amount of time, and I've played The Division, and I've played these different games, and I'm like, yeah, this is like looting and shooting as an afterthought, kind of. So that didn't surprise me, but I thought it was interesting to hear him actually say it in such clear terms.
Like I got, okay, when I built my computer, I got like Destiny 1 for free, so I tried it and was Destiny 2 for free. And like I played the opening and I hated it so much I never touched it again. And I played Anthem and didn't think it was a looter shooter. Like I never played a looter shooter, and I could sit here saying the looter shooter thing was an afterthought because the loot, I didn't give a shit about the loot for the most point. And I think that's kind of the point of looter shooters, right?
Yeah, so. I mean, I do think of Anthem as a looter shooter. It's just yeah, it's hard to describe. I mean, Darrah even said it's like it's not as though we didn't have people on the team who played looter shooters, but it's one thing to play it. It's a different thing to know how to make it, and I guess that's a good that like they knew how to dress it as a looter shooter.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just felt like from the people who like really played Anthem that I talked to, and maybe that was just my bubble. Like I feel like the people only really cared about like the skin customization rather than like the weapons, because the weapons weren't that exciting. Because they're so that was the collectible, and that's not really a looter shooter. Like you could make that game that is more about the collectible skins and all that. That's probably also like the Sims level of gameplay But not even that. I'm going to say Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and like maybe 4 people it's going to go, yeah, but because you really just more care about the aesthetics than like anything else. But yeah, so I guess this, in a weird way, I actually liked that though, because that's the kind of shit I like in video games. And if it was more focused on the guns like Destiny was, I probably would do exactly why I played the opening of Destiny and go, I hate this, never play it again.
Yeah.
So, you know. So yeah, it's a fun listen. Definitely like if you're able to throw them a couple bucks, go listen to it. Or wait till when it's out. But yeah, I think that was kind of all that was on that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and the main things from that, like you said, we knew he didn't coordinate with Casey Hudson. He's not contractually obligated to say nice things about EA or Bioware, and the stuff about Anthem and what its development history was. I think it's a good listen overall. I enjoyed it. I really, really like Mark Darrah's candor. I always have, even when he was at Bioware. And I think his YouTube channel is a phenomenal YouTube channel. Like, it's really, really good. Like, as far as if you're interested in game development, I think it's even good for people just in business generally. I mean, he talks about stuff like meetings and his thoughts about completion urgency, although it's the way he's talking about it is very specific to video games. Something like that is just true generally on projects. And so if you work in large organizations or businesses that are sort of large, I think that there's value in a lot of what he's talking about.
Maybe we cut this. But I've had people contact me, and someone even told me of a comment that was left on his video and he responded to. But are we ever going to have Darrah on our show? Like, it's probably within the realm of possibility that we ask and he says yes. So, like, is that even so? Like, we kind of, at one point we did talk about doing interviews, and I think both of us were just at a place of, like, I don't know if we want to go there, and I don't know if this is just a re-examining of that. Like, I don't know what I would ask that hasn't already been asked, and then I'm also just, like, a nervous bitch and feel weird about doing it.
Sure.
Like, not that, like, I don't know. I just don't know what to do.
What do you mean there was a comment left on, like a comment about our podcast specifically, or just interviews?
No, I think it was specific. I can't remember the comment. It was either me or the podcast. Either way, I was involved. And name drop. I think Jack was also name dropped. But someone was like, hey, have you ever thought of reaching out to like the Dragon Age YouTubers like Caitie and Jack? And I think even our podcast, I can't remember the comment very well. And like for like advertisement for your channel. And he said something like, well, I kind of want to build up my brand before I go knocking on doors, was his answer. But like if we open the door for him, he'd probably come on in. But like, is that something we even want to do?
That'd be very interesting. I mean, to do. The only thing that I would suggest, and this is a particular pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
And I noticed it even a little bit on the interview that Maddie and Lord Cognito is the co-host of Defining Duke. I thought they did a great job of sort of passing the ball and switching it off between the two of them and asking questions. I just don't like the 2-on-1 interview. I never have. I've never liked it. So I would almost rather you do it one-on-one, or one of us do it one-on-one, but presumably you. And so that way it's a one-on-one interview. I just think they're better.
Yeah. I would almost say you do it because I feel like I would be too awkward.
I mean, I think people would probably expect you to be the one to do it, but I think it would be a lot of fun for either one of us to get to talk to Mark Darrah. And even if I'm not there doing it, I would have a blast listening to you guys talk.
Yeah. I guess you're more... I think is at his best when he talks about business stuff, and that's like your thing. Where I talk about nerdy Dragon Age lore, and like that's not really what he's talking about, you know? I mean, like maybe I could say like, oh, behind the scenes, blah 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 blah. But like you're the business guy, and I feel like you could get better questions out of him. And that's where I'm coming from.
If it was Patrick Weeks, you would want to do the interview.
Yeah, if Patrick Weeks was doing it, I would do a Weeks, or really any of the writers. Then I would call dibs. But I feel like when it's like someone like Darrah, that's a you. Now, maybe this is cut, but that's even if this is something we even want to do. Because quite frankly, we're having trouble even scheduling our own podcast.
I was going to say, I mean, At this point, we're talking about what outfit we should wear on a date with a person who doesn't know we're alive.
I know, like we keep trying to say like, oh yeah, let's record this day. Oh, I'm sick. What's when we record this? Which is like why we're talking about a Bioware blog in like late February when it's like, you know, the second week of March.
Sure, yeah. No, I think there are interviews all around that could be interesting if we ever had the opportunity to do them. Yeah. And I think interviews are super interesting when they're done well. I'll be very honest, most of the time when I listen to a podcast, even if it's one that I like, and they finally get to interview that big game developer, I cringe all the way through it because it's just a lot of the person talking. Yeah. I mean, the interviewer, not the interviewee. And a lot of like, you're so great and awesome and so wonderful, and we're so gloriously, divinely happy you're here. And I'm like, that's all nice, man, but just ask a question already. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm paranoid. Because I agree with you. And I hate that too. And I don't trust myself enough not to do that. And I think that's where I'm coming from, is that I just don't know how I would react. And I don't know like do I act aloof? Do I act like, I don't know. I've never fucking done it before and I'm nervous. That's
Interviewing is very, very hard. The only interviewing of game developers I ever did was like very, very indie, like small folks.
Yeah.
Interviewing is an art form, and the people who are very good at it, I think they get so little credit because great interviewers are very, very talented. It's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that part of the podcast made it in the final cut or not, but...
yeah, well, we might just leave it in there.
Okay. Well, now he's going to fucking hear it and be like, who are these losers?
Why are they talking about me?
Yeah, why are they talking about it? Doing it if they will do an interview or not, and if they're too fucking nervous to do so. Okay, that's just where I'm. Yeah, people have asked me like, "Oh, are you gonna have Mark Darrah on your show?" Like, that's so cool. I'm like, I understand that you want to hear me and him in a room, and like, I would be excited to do that and all. I'm scared. Like, every once in a while, I'll comment on his channel trying to be helpful, and I sit there and go, I shouldn't have fucking said that. I just should pretend I don't exist. It's every time because I just don't know if it's appropriate or not, if I'm being weird. It's like I've been trapped for 2 years with a baby and I forgot all social instincts.
That can be a thing. That's a lot of people have felt that's a thing.
If Mark Darrah was a 2-year-old, I got this in the bag.
Would you like to, now we're just talking about methods here, but would you ever like to do one that's highly edited? Did you ever watch the Game Informer rapid fire questions?
I think I did actually, yeah, where it was like...
You did one for Anthem.
Yeah, I did see that, yeah.
I absolutely love that. Ben Hansen, I think, was the one who sort of conceived of that when he was like the main video guy at Game Informer. And I think maybe Joe Juba was doing the interview, but I think Hansen was like the conceiving of that highly edited, like rapid fire style. I love that. If you did that, and even if I got to edit that, I would have a fun time with that.
That's another thing though. I don't even know what to add. Like, I feel like the rapid fire thing that I saw with him in Anthem, like it was a bunch of questions on what Anthem, and there was like one on Dragon Age, like how is it going, and he said like a 1-word answer. I just don't know what I would ask. And that's...
Some of them are just fun though too, right? Are you a good sport? True. Is how they all start.
As long as it's not that Reddit one, which is like, 100 duck-sized horses or whatever.
Oh God, I thought of that randomly in the shower the other day. That's what is that? 10 years old, 15 years old now?
Oh fuck, is it really? Jesus.
That meme is so fucking old.
Which side note, today as we were recording this, a little part behind the curtain here is the 10th anniversary of Mass Effect 3.
Yes, that is correct.
Which just made me like reevaluate my life. Like, holy fuck, has it been 10 years?
It's been a long time since Mass Effect 3 came out.
Jesus. I mean, I guess, yeah, there's already a Legendary Edition out, so of course it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
But, oh boy. I was
all
in
right,
college.
You got anything else on...
No, I'm old. That's all I have.
I was trying, like, where was I 10 years ago? I go, yeah, I was a younger man then.
I had hope in my eyes. Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay, wait, before we can get, I did want to ask you this question.
Yes.
Just as the final heat check here, we're going to probably play Dragon Age 4 in 2024. What is your level? Yeah, like what is your level of excitement still at this point? And is it the same as it was 5 years ago? Is it lesser? Like where are you at right now as we're, I guess, looking into the horizon, and Dragon Age 4 is somewhat closer now?
My excitement level. I'm definitely excited for it, but I feel like it almost doesn't feel real just because it's been so long. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And so it's just kind of like I've now gotten used to the waiting that I don't know what I'm going to do with myself when I have it in my hands. And so, and then also like, there was a period in my life when all I was really doing was working and then coming home and then just like working on Dragon Age stuff all day. And now I have so much going on behind the scenes. Like I have a family, I have just all sorts of bullshit. The world in general, as we mentioned earlier, that like I have so much shit in my head that like excitement for Dragon Age doesn't, and because it's not so soon, it's like I doesn't have room for it. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Our lives move on and we change.
Yeah. So it's almost like if for some reason a meteor hits Edmonton, and everyone survives, because I don't want this to be like a death scenario, but like all the Dragon Age files get deleted or something.
Yeah.
Like I would be sad, and that kind of sucks. And like, I would definitely like in my mind, I've always had the idea of like, if Dragon Age 4 got canned, I would pivot my channel to then be about digging up what it would have been. And I would definitely start working towards that as like a hobby. But I don't think I would be upset. It would just change my plans. Does that make any sense? I don't know.
That's a really good plan, first of all. Glad you have a contingency, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, it's also like one of those things where I would probably disappear for many years, because probably like gathering that information and then leaking it out would probably be a no-no. So yeah, if Dragon Age 4 gets canceled and I just disappear, I am working on things in the background. I just probably don't want my name attached to it anymore. So, the end. But yeah, that's a whole other story. But yeah, I get, what about you? Is it the same thing where like it's just kind of, you know?
I was thinking along the same lines as you, and the news. I guess earlier this week when we decided we would talk about this, I was contemplating this, and I think the most honest answer, and this is kind of sad, but I think the most honest answer is I'm not as excited for Dragon Age 4 as I was, like, say, when we started doing this podcast.
I mean, part of that's the time period, but like, let's say like, what's a good year? I don't even know what year to say. So there's when we started the podcast. Let's say like after Anthem came out, because that was about like a couple years after we started. Has it diminished since then?
Oh yeah, it's at an all-time low. It's definitely at an all-time low. I mean, I think, and also by the way, it's not even like I'm less excited for Mass Effect. I'm more excited for Baldur's Gate 3. I'm more excited for Avowed. I'm more excited for Starfield, because those things are like real.
Yeah.
I like video games, and there was a weird point in time where my love for Bioware stuff grew because, well, it's too long of a story, but like I kind of was not interested in a lot of other games. I got burned out on playing everything and trying to keep up with all the releases. And I just kept replaying Mass Effect and Dragon Age. And that's when my love for those games went through the roof.
Yeah.
Me and my friends have been talking like 22 and 23 might end up being like the 07, 08. If people really look back on like 2007, 2008 are considered two of the greatest years in video games ever because of how many legendary games came out. If you look at the lineup of games, like Elden Ring and Horizon are out right now. And like there's all kinds of stuff that's coming up this year and next year. This might be the best 2-year period in gaming maybe ever that we're about to live through. I guess I'll be more excited for Dragon Age and Mass Effect when they're closer to being real, but right now I'm excited for the stuff that's real.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense and is healthy. Like, I feel like if you were constantly excited as you finished Trespasser in September 2015 as you are now,
that'd be weird. Yeah.
A little strange, and like, and here's the thing. There's people all the time saying, I'm so excited for Dragon Age 4 because they just finished the game. I actually kind of find it cute, but every once in a while, like, I'll get like, it's someone very obviously binging my channel and commenting on every video about how excited they are and all their theories. And at one point they'll say, yeah, I just finished the game like a month ago. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad. Welcome. It's still a bit of a wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to that point too, I know there are people, and believe me, I just explained how I didn't want any other games for a while. I just wanted these two. And so I get that. But for anyone who hasn't tried some of the other ones that are out there that have some of the same elements, and you're getting tired of waiting, I implore you, try some other stuff. Because like Horizon Zero Dawn and now Horizon Forbidden West, which I'm playing currently, goddamn are the conversations in that dialogue real good. It's Mass Effect. It's Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Like, I promise you, it's that good, and it's as good as like the peak points of those franchises. Like, deep, long conversations, 30-minute conversations with characters that aren't even part of the main quest. Just talk to them and know their backstory. And the world is good, and the dialogue's well written, and the acting, and like, if you haven't tried these yet, Forbidden West, you have to have a PlayStation 5, but Zero Dawn's on PC now.
Oh yeah.
I implore people to try these games. Play it on easy mode if you don't like the actiony stuff. Whatever, it's fine. The story, the characters, the dialogue is very good.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, other stuff is out there, and for Dragon Age and Mass Effect, I imagine I'll be much more excited when they're closer.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, if for some reason, like, Dragon Age stole my heart for RPGs, but I think my bread and butter of what games I like are actually like simulation games. Like, I'm still obsessed with Animal Crossing. When I'm not playing anything for the channel, I'm playing Animal Crossing. I put in an absurd amount of hours. I think last time I checked, it was like over 500, which rivals Inquisition. Fun facts.
Wow.
We can actually hit the switch right here. Give me like a hot second, and we can see how many hours I have in Animal Crossing and compare.
I saw in my GOG for Cyberpunk almost 300 hours for a game that supposedly sucks. I really like Cyberpunk.
Oh my god! Sorry. Oh, fuck. I have not. Sorry. I just looked at I have 975 hours.
Holy shit! I'm like, is the number too high, Caitie? Are you embarrassed?
That is so much time. Holy fuck!
That's insane.
That is insane. What have I been doing in Animal Crossing? I knew I was obsessed, but damn, girl. Hold on,
Holy crap.
I gotta pull up Origin real quick. See what I will say my Dragon Age ones are, because I play offline a lot, and I somehow I honestly don't know what I did. I modded Dragon Age 2 so bad that it says I have 2,000 hours in Dragon Age 2, and that is not true.
That is pretty wild. I think in my Origins, my Mass Effect stuff is like over 500 for the trilogy, but that's not including all the years I played on Xbox 360 already. So it's probably close to 1,000 for the 3 games, though.
Okay, Origin says I have. Okay, it says I have 1,000 hours in Inquisition. All right, so Dragon Age is still more. And it's actually probably over that with how much, because I'll take all my B-roll footage from Inquisition, so I end up just doing that a lot. But yeah, wow, holy. In 2 years, I put in almost 1,000 hours in Animal Crossing.
That's the part that's kind of like, whoa, because that game hadn't been out that long.
That's true. With Dragon Age, that's been out since, it's, to 2014, so it's been 7 years versus 2. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that's why Cyberpunk surprised me a little bit, because that game's only been out a little over a year, and I've got almost 300 hours on it, which is kind of high for the time frame.
Yeah. Okay, well, this episode's now titled Caitie's Embarrassment Over 900 Hours in Animal Crossing. Okay.
All right, well, with that note, there are lots of things to be excited about for video games.
Indeed.
Caitie, where can the folks find you?
Playing
Animal Crossing, apparently.
They can find me on Twitter at Ghildirthalen and YouTube on Ghildirthalen. At the end, what about you, Jordan?
They can find me at the Exalted March on YouTube, and that's mostly it.
Yeah, you kind of just poofed off the internet otherwise.
It's so nice to just not look at social media most of the time.
I have to say, I took like a week off or whatever to like, because I was fucking sick. And when you're sick and taking care of a healthy toddler, things get interesting. So, yeah, I'm a little bit jealous. Anyway, with that, Darrah.